Let's have an uncomfortable discussion. Is Brad Marchand, or Marchand, depending how you pronounce it, I'm going to pronounce it Marchand in this video, is he a Hart candidate? Having watched last night's game, and I know it was a depleted Canucks roster. I know they gave up Hansen and they gave up Burrows, and I know they were missing Gauntz. I know they were missing Tanev. I know there's other players missing too. But is Brad Marchand worthy of Hart consideration? He's tied for the NHL lead in goals. He is near the top of the list in points, and no other Bruins anywhere near him. You can't point at Marchand and say, well, he's getting all those points because he's playing with Bergeron. Because Bergeron's not getting those points. Bergeron played great last night. He's not getting Marchand to that level. Marchand's doing it by himself. We all dislike the way Marchand plays the game, myself included. And this gear, I love my Bruins. I love them to death. But Marchand is the most frustrating player I've ever had to watch in Boston jersey because he plays dirty and he's one of the most talented players in the NHL. And I mean, Ken Linseman was the original Rat. He was a good player. Point a game in the 80s. So by today's standards, he probably would have been about 55, 60 points in a season. Pretty good player. Not ever in the conversation for a Hart or anything like that. Linseman was a second liner for the most part. Good player, agitator. I cannot think of a player like Marchand that's ever been in the conversation for the Hart Trophy. I even joked with Yvonne on the way home. I said, if he wins the scoring title, he could be the MVP of the league. And at the league awards, they just won't hand them out. It'll be like, we had a vote with the players and they decided you're a dick. We're not giving those awards out this year. Go home. In fact, we're just not. We don't want you here at all. So get out. I'm kidding, but he's not a popular guy around the rest of the NHL. And apparently, when interviewed after the game and he was asked about all the fans in Vancouver booing him, he said that just fires him up. That was a mistake. He clearly last night shit disturbed to turn the game around. The Bruins were behind 2-1. It's near the end of the first, and he started a scrum. And when it was over, there were 5 Canucks and 4 Bruins involved in the scrum, and he'd weaseled his way out of it. He was standing there next to the linesman, watching. He is a master at what he does. We don't like it. And I say we because I don't like it either. When Marchand scored that hat trick, I cheered and winced at the same time. Because it was amazing to watch a player for a team that I cheer for score a hat trick. I'm never going to have that experience again, in all likelihood. Unless I go to a lot of Canuck games and somebody on the Canucks shows that explosive ability. I'm looking at you, Bo Horvat. But, you know, it was fun to see a hat trick, and at the same time, it was like, why'd it have to be Marchand? Why couldn't it be Bergeron? Why couldn't it have been Pastrnak? But that's the question. Does Brad Marchand right now get Hart candidate? Does he at least get into the conversation? I mean, we talk about Crosby and Malkin and which one's more relevant. Here's the problem. Crosby and Malkin both being MVP level doesn't really work. The Hart Trophy winner ideally should be a guy you look at and you say, man, if he was hurt, that team is screwed. And if you look at Pittsburgh, if Crosby gets hurt, Malkin steps forward and they're not screwed. They're going to lose some points, but they're not screwed. Washington, they've proven that they can win without Ovechkin scoring a goal. So to me, Marchand comes into that conversation. It's the same as Brent Burns. Brent Burns is in the conversation because without him, who knows where San Jose would be right now. And Burns kind of plays on the edge too, but Burns is not in that same rat-like uh, temperament as Marchand. Marchand revels in it. He revels in opponents hating him. He revels in fans hating him. He loves it. I saw it last night. I watched him enjoy being booed. When you boo Marchand, he plays better. He loves it. He loves being hated. He wants to be the villain. And I've gone to 2 Rammstein concerts. I went to Slipknot. I've been to hockey games before. The booing that Marchand got in Vancouver when he scored that first goal and they announced it was one of the loudest things I've heard in a stadium. And that stadium was not full. Rogers was, I think, 3/4 full last night. And it's not that fans are staying away, it's that the corporate seats went empty. And this is something I was talking about with Toronto fans on the MLSE video I did yesterday. You have corporations that buy these season tickets, and if nobody uses those seats, it's a write-off anyways. Somebody sits there, great. If nobody sits there, whatever. The NHL doesn't care. The NHL doesn't like the optics of empty seats, but they're paid empty seats. So as long as they're paid empty seats, they don't care. They've made their money. If you decide to stay home and not go to the game, it doesn't matter. If Yvonne and I don't buy those tickets for yesterday's game, odds are our seats would have been empty too. But it's interesting, being in Rogers and watching that. And I want to watch games next year. I'm definitely going to the Vancouver-Boston game again next year. There's no doubt in my mind I will witness that game again. But for me, anyways, it's a muted enthusiasm because, again, there's a discomfort I feel as a Bruins fan in the Vancouver arena. And I know Montreal, Calgary, Toronto fans, you get it as well. But when the game was 3-2 Vancouver, there was a playful banter between myself and Canuck fans here and there. And it soured as soon as Boston took that 4-3 lead. Some of the people that have been joking with me stopped. They realized Vancouver's behind. There's 7 minutes left. They're probably done. Because Boston had already started boxing Vancouver out, wasn't giving them a lane to the net anymore. The whole team was playing really, really well at that point. Minus Rask. But I think the Bruins knew Rask wasn't on his game, and they were making sure he had nothing to worry about. The Canucks only had 29 shots. And realistically, after they have 13 in the first period, they should have ended up with more than 30. Absolutely should have ended up with more than 30. And they didn't manage 10 in the third. And it was Boston's defense playing really well. The only defenseman in Boston I would probably swap out in an ideal world would have been Miller last night. Kevin Miller. Colin Miller, fine. Everybody else was fine. But it's interesting seeing it live. It's interesting getting that different perspective, and I need more of that. I readily admit I need more of that. Because for me, as this channel grows, I'll be more capable of going to games and doing this kind of thing. And definitely when YouTube pays out, I think next week. Yeah, it's next week. I can use some of that money to go to another Canuck game. And I don't think it matters who they're against. I think it'd be interesting sitting in those same seats wearing Canucks gear and seeing how different fans treat me when I'm sitting in the same seats. And I think back to my minor league hockey days when I was, teenager in Chilliwack, and we used to go to Chilliwack Chiefs games every weekend. You'd go to both Friday and Saturday games. And we would usually sit among the fans for the opposing team, because that was before we had actual stands. That was the old Chilliwack Coliseum, which was just bleachers. and sat 1,500, but they would squeeze 2,500 into it. But we would sit among opposing fans, but it never got ugly. We would kind of throw mocking chants at one another. I mean, the most famous one to me was, I remember we were playing against Merritt, and a guy from Merritt yells across, or no, a guy from Chilliwack yells across the arena at the Merritt fans as Chilliwack's winning the game. I think it was like 5-1 or something like that. Yells out, "How's hockey doing in Merritt?" A fan snaps right back at him, "About as good as it's doing in Chilliwack." And everybody laughed. The whole arena erupted in laughter. It was like, you got us, we got you, done. And I don't know, if it's alcohol that causes it, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help. I think that's probably Rogers' big moneymaker. I mean, $9 a beer? Holy shiza. Give me a break. For $9, I expect one of the ice cleaning girls to come up and hand it to me. But, give me a break. So I mean, if you're willing to spend, $50 to get mildly drunk, but the other thing too is people could have come in drunk already or snuck in whatever alcohol they brought with them. Who knows if they were just drinking the beers that they got at Rogers? Odds are probably not. If I sneak food into a movie theater, and once in a while I do, odds are people are sneaking alcohol into Rogers. As I said last night, I don't see the appeal. But it all circles back to Marchand. Marchand is the most hated NHLer. Absolutely. He deserves it. I won't argue with that. But is he the Hart Trophy winner? And if not, is he at least a candidate? So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. So again, this is just sort of me post-game thinking. And the main takeaway for me is Marchand should at least be in the Hart Trophy consideration. And I didn't mention him in my awards video because while people were talking about whether or not I mentioned Calgary or Ottawa enough, you'll notice I didn't mention anybody from any of the teams I cheer for either, minus Bergeron in Boston, and that's only because Selke, Bergeron is going to be mentioned every year. It's not an insult to anybody else. It's just Bergeron's going to be mentioned every year. Once you've won an award once, especially if you play for an East Coast team, it's easy for them just to vote for you again. Lidstrom won a lot of Norris trophies. He didn't deserve to win every single one he did. Same with Brodeur, Martin Brodeur with the Devils. And it happens. Sometimes you get a vote based on familiarity as much as you get the vote based on your merit. So since Marchand plays for these guys and these guys play on the East Coast, that also could get him votes. So let me know what you guys think. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I will be talking to you all again soon because some interesting things going on right now with the standings. And some stuff that I predicted could be coming to pass in one conference, while in the other, I'm completely wrong. And I don't mind being completely wrong at all. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all again soon.